We all think we know the story of Rapunzel, the girl trapped in a high tower, the ridiculously long golden hair, the handsome prince who climbs up that hair and saves her from her lonely existence. It's a classic damsel in distress tale. But what if I told you that's not the real story? What if the fairy tale we've been told is a lie? Because the truth is far more powerful, far more shocking, and it changes everything. Rapunzel never waited for a prince. Rapunzel never needed saving. Rapunzel planned her own escape long before anyone ever thought to look for her. It wasn't a rescue. It was a rebellion. Let's go back to the beginning. Rapunzel was locked away by a woman who feared her strength, not her weakness. From the time she was a little girl, she sensed something was different about her. Every time she sang a simple melody, strange things would happen. She could calm a brewing storm just by humming. Her voice could soften the heart of an angry animal. She once healed a deep cut on her own hand simply by singing to it. The world would have called these miracles. Her keeper, the woman who called herself her mother, called them danger. So the tower became her cage, a place where her incredible power would stay hidden, controlled, and above all, silenced. The woman told her the world was a wicked place, that the tower was for her own protection. But even as a child, Rapunzel knew this wasn't protection. It was a prison. But here is the part of the story no one ever tells you. Rapunzel didn't spend her days sighing and dreaming of a hero. She spent them planning. She was a strategist, a survivor. Every single night, when the moon was high, she would meticulously tie tiny, intricate knots in her hair. She was testing its strength, braiding it, making it longer, tougher. Not for someone to climb up, but for her to climb down. Every day, she would sit by the tiny window, listening to the birds. She didn't just love their songs. She was studying them. She learned their patterns, their flight paths, their calls that signaled a change in the weather. She was learning the language of freedom. And every time the woman visited, bringing food and false comfort, Rapunzel played her part perfectly. She smiled politely. She acted fragile, helpless, even grateful for her gilded cage. She was none of those things. She was a student of her enemy, learning her habits, her fears, her every move. She knew that to escape, she had to understand the mind of her jailer. Then, one evening, it happened. The sky turned a deep, bruised purple, the kind of sky that warns of a powerful storm. The wind began to howl, and Rapunzel felt a shiver run down her spine. But it wasn't fear. It was anticipation. This was her moment. With practiced hands, she began to braid her hair into one thick, powerful rope. Her fingers moved with a speed born from years of secret preparation. Her hands shook, not from fear, but from the electric thrill of what was about to happen. She leaned close to the cold stone wall and whispered to herself, a promise she had made 1,000 times. I am not waiting for anyone. I am my own rescue. Then, with a deep breath, she threw her long, heavy braid out the window. It unfurled like a golden banner of defiance against the darkening sky. She gripped it tightly and began her descent, climbing down the cold, rough tower wall with a strength she had been building in secret for years. Halfway down, the wind roared, threatening to rip her from her hold. The storm was unleashing its full fury, and that's when she realized something unbelievable. Her power wasn't just in her song or in her hair. It was in her voice. It was her will. So she began to sing, not a soft, sweet lullaby, but a fierce, trembling, rising note that seemed to come from the very core of her being. A sound that cracked the storm open. The trees below bent away from the tower. The ancient stones of the tower itself seemed to shake. The entire forest fell silent, listening to her declaration of freedom. When her feet finally touched the soft earth, she didn't run. She stood there for a moment, breathing in the wild, rain-soaked air. She walked steady and completely unafraid as if she had been free her entire life. But the woman who had kept her captive had heard the unnatural storm. She had felt the tower shake, and she came chasing after Rapunzel, her face contorted with fury, screaming that she would drag her back, that she would never be free. Rapunzel stopped. She turned to face her captor, her breath shaking, her heart pounding, and then she sang one last note. It was a note filled with everything she had endured, the loneliness, the lies, the years of stolen life. It was a note of pure, unfiltered truth. And this is the most important part. The note didn't hurt the woman. It didn't destroy her. It exposed her. In that one powerful sound, the woman saw herself for what she truly was: not a protector, but a coward, terrified of a power she could not control. She collapsed to the ground, not from any magical force, but from the crushing weight of her own guilt. The forest watched silently as Rapunzel finally spoke the words she had been holding inside for so long. "You didn't protect me," she said, her voice clear and strong. "You hid me, not because I was weak, but because I was powerful. Now the world will hear me." And with that, Rapunzel walked away, not into the arms of a waiting prince, not into the promise of a storybook romance, but into a future she would build with her own two hands, guided by her own voice. Because her escape was never about being saved. It was about breaking the chains that were meant to silence her. The story of Rapunzel isn't about a girl who let down her hair for a prince. It's about a woman who used her own strength to climb down from her prison. The girl who once lived in a tower became the woman who taught the world that freedom is not given. It's claimed. Thank you so much for watching. If this story changed the way you see fairy tales, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that break the mold. We'll see you in the next one.